Alright, those of you who saw the trailer know what's coming. So, today, now, I am going to break down for you what I feel are the top 5 movies of this year. Now, keep in mind, I did share the list of the movies I saw. I am limited to those. I cannot comment on movies that I have not seen just based on people telling me how amazing they were or anything like that. And I'm on a budget, so yeah, I can't exactly rent everything that ever came out this year either. Um, so if you think I stepped on your toes, I'm sorry. Live with it. uh, okay, but we're also going to be covering a couple of honorable mentions, movies that I think deserve some props, even if they weren't in the top ranks, and a couple of dishonorable mentions too. Yeah. So let's get started with number 5, The Muppets. Yeah, I had to give them this spot. Normally I wouldn't have, but I mean it was the Muppets. They were finally making a comeback. It's ever since I was a kid I've been waiting for the next Muppet movie, and then I find out that it's just not coming. Um, they used to come out with them once every few years. They were big deals when they came out. Everybody loved the Muppets. To this day, everyone still loves the Muppets, and everyone was wondering where'd they go. And now they're back, and in the movie, it was it had some cliches in it too, but it was also fully aware that it had these cliches and milked them for that very purpose, and it actually turned out really well. A little bit more song and dance than I normally would have expected from a Muppet movie, but the songs that were there were funny and entertaining. So, though I think the most random one was the very short rap. Oh gosh. But yeah, it managed to be a good movie, really entertaining. Definitely something that the whole family could actually sit down and watch, which is rare anymore. That you actually find a good movie that's entertaining for everyone in the family. I mean, usually it's having to go to the theater and sit there and grimace through a movie that's geared toward little kids. That's nonstop stupid humor. But this actually was pretty intelligent, pretty good. Um, so yeah, number 5. Okay, to the number 4 spot, we are going to go with, and this might shock some people, Battle Los Angeles. Yeah, I know people thought I was dead serious when I said movie of the year, and well, for the first half of the year, maybe it kind of was. Um, I hadn't seen too much since then, so to me it was. But I do like it a lot more than people seem to think I should. It's another movie that they say is cliche ridden and everything. But the thing about this movie is that while it does have your typical storyline, what else are you gonna do? Really, the whole aliens invade Earth thing has been done to death. People always constantly seem to try to stick to the angle of somehow the aliens are just misunderstood. It was actually interesting to finally see just a straightforward us or them battle again. Um, and it was a movie that that really got a lot of criticism it didn't deserve. Um, sure, you could, give it some. I'm not gonna lie, but there were some things like I've actually seen like Amazon reviews, theatrical reviews, where they talk about like, for example, the token black guy. Which one of the 3 or 4 black central characters was the token? I don't know. Um, they talk about how their motivations for coming here are never explained. That's not true. They actually say it right in there in a news report. Well, at least their theory for it. Um, it's kind of hard to actually sit down and negotiate with an invading force. Um, and a lot of people criticized it for not feeling complete because the last battle they take down that thing and now they got to go back in and finish it and it ends there. Um, well, I'm pretty sure that's a sequel setup. Had it gone on, it really would have dragged the movie out even more. So I I don't know. The movie got a lot of unfair criticism, but it also had some really good acting, some great performances. It had honestly some pretty good pacing. The aliens that they managed to come up with, frankly, were unlike anything that I had ever seen, so it didn't feel recycled. They looked like they were jellyfish inspired, though, which would be very interesting. Just by the way they moved and how their bodies seem to be made up primarily of water and everything. And it's very hard to find any kind of vital organs. Uh, it was a pretty darn interesting movie. And it really was good quality, much better than people gave it credit for. Okay, and there's your number four. Number three, we're going to go with Captain America. What else really needs to be said? It's Captain America. People had high hopes for this movie. I, for one, was actually very skeptical of this film going in because I had heard a lot of things coming out of there from the producer about how they weren't going to make him, some sort of jingoistic flag waver, and that had a lot of people worried and upset because Captain America was never, well, in recent history, anyway, was a jingoistic flag waver, and that's the Captain America that most people remember. Now, as it turns out, they were actually referencing the 1940s Captain America comics as they were setting it back then. But that was a distinction they really should have made a lot sooner instead of making people wait for the movie to come out to see whether or not they did that. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised. Didn't go over the top, and yet still felt like, well, Captain America. Um, the Yeah, and a lot of people I do know complain about the ending and how it just seems odd that they'd have English written on the bombs and everything. Well, actually, uh, considering the fact that it's German and the German language is very similar to English, and I'm really not so sure that Germans would have completely different spellings for the names of American cities. I mean, this isn't like Japanese or Russian or anything like that. I'm not sure there'd be such a huge difference as people seem to think there would be. Also, they say that it's kind of weird the way that it ends, or the way the Red Skull disappears. What people do have to understand, though, is that unlike the other uh, Marvel hero movies, which they were hinting that something big was coming. Um, Iron Man, the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, uh, Iron Man 2, Thor, these have all definitely leaned toward it, but this, unlike them, had to be literally a direct lead up into it. So it is gonna feel like something strange happened and it stopped abruptly because it's not over. In no way is it over. In fact, part of the next part of the series is going to have to involve reintegration into society for a guy who has been frozen in a block of ice for over 60 years. Uh, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm not seeing too many things to see bad about the ending. It was a beautiful movie throughout. The visuals were beautiful. The performances were great. Um, it was a pretty emotional movie. It actually made you feel for the character in the end. Um, it was sad, but there you have it. Um, Seeing as that's what they were going for, that's a good thing. And yeah, it's definitely number three on the list, and quite possibly one of the best in the Avengers series. Um, Number two, we're going to go with Unknown. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of thrillers because, see, to me, a psychological thriller, can at points just get too pretentious and too over the top and too, try to do way too much, or try to get artsy, and there's some stuff that just doesn't really work with it. When it comes to Unknown, in the right from the get go, things are, well, things go right from the get go. It's very fast paced. which actually works to this genre's benefit. I'm really getting tired of thrillers that just go so slow, and then just have these moments where it's like intense, intense, and then it's like slow, and then these things need to be fast paced. And so many times, they try to go slow and artistic with them, and it's like that's not what this genre needs. If you want to do that, go play somewhere else. But uh, no, that's my opinion, anyways. Um, and to be perfectly blunt, this movie actually manages to pull it off very well. Um, has a very nice twist ending that you can kind of see coming, but at the same time not. There are hints to it. Once you see it, you can see how it could have led up to that. Um, very solid movie, I think. Great performance by Liam Neeson, unbelievable. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. That guy made me believe throughout the entire thing that this whole time he's just this scared, utterly confused, horrified guy who has no idea what's going on. And then, when he gets his memory back and what happens there, that was just awesome. So, anyways, yeah, that movie is definitely my number two for this year. And number one, Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. That was that movie is so intense. It's awesome. It's got everything. It managed to be extremely cerebral. It makes you think. It makes you pay attention. Every little thing that you see in the movie is important. But at the same time, it also keeps up the whole. It's got the mystery element to it. It's got the suspense element. It's definitely action packed. Um, very well written. Very well acted. I honestly have to say this is literally, from what I remember from the books, this is actually one of the best Sherlock Holmes depictions that I have ever seen. And yes, I've seen the first one too. That one's just as awesome. Actually, this one actually was a step up. So bravo to that. Moriarty, Professor Moriarty. Oh my God, totally, completely, utterly lives up to his reputation. Completely. The way that the way he operates, covering up this one plan with another one, hoping that he'll miss a significant detail, leaving false clues, everything. It was amazing. Yeah, and the ending, wow. Oh, there's another case of an awesome ending. But yeah, that movie, honest to God, I'm going to say Sherlock Holmes is indeed movie of the year. Yes, I know there's going to be a bunch of Harry Potter fans crying after this, but well, there you go. Now, for a couple of honorable mentions here. Honestly, I got a two for first of all. Um, and that would be Rango and Cowboys and Aliens. Now, the reason I do them both together is because they deal with westerns. Westerns are something that have, for a long time now, have been considered dead or relegated to B movies with incredibly stupid plots and bad actors. Um, that involve finding some sort of cursed artifact that unleashes the forces of hell itself, or Indian, spirits, or even zombie westerns for some reason, which can work, but now after a while it got overdone. So it's nice to actually see the western make a comeback. Um, in the case of Cowboys and Aliens, though, what they did was they actually mashed up two genres, sci-fi and the western. It's a sci-fi and western. That's very rare, and it's something that you really think shouldn't work, and yet it kind of does. Um, sure, toward the end, it suffered a little bit. I think they should have slowed down a little bit more. That's one of those cases where you really wish there was a director's cut, especially with John Favreau. The guy's a really talented director, but and you do kind of feel like the rushing was due to editing. But it did feel a little bit rushed. Not too bad though. Not enough to make it so that you can't enjoy it. Would have been nice though to understand why those aliens were after what they were after. That is one case where they don't explain it. They just say that's the whole reason they were doing it in the first place for some reason. And we could have used a little more exposition in the end, and the pacing could have been a bit better. But still, a very enjoyable movie, and it actually showed ingenuity someone thinking originally for a change. This is something very rare in Hollywood, and that really does need to be congratulated. When it comes to Rango, same thing. They actually took the idea of the Western, an actual Western too. It actually has the vibe, the feel of a real, genuine Western, and put a spin on it. Included animal characters, and honestly made it a family film. And it is a family film that really does feel like a real Western. A real, actual, genuine Western. That which is quite a feat because so many times whenever you see one, it's like definitely not something you really want kids to see. In a lot of cases, in other cases, who cares? It's pretty tame by today's standards because a lot of them are old. But you know, the, hmm, it was actually pretty clever. Johnny Depp did a really good job, voice acting as usual. And well, there you have that. Now here's one that's going to get an honorable mention. That's going to be kind of controversial. I am number four. Now I know a lot of people are going to hate on this movie and talk about how it's crap and utter BS and mindless and pointless. Well, kind of the point. Now I don't want to diss on the books because I haven't read the books, though this movie did make me want to read the books. But so I might check those out at some point. But this movie was honestly somewhat hastily tossed together. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, it managed to tell a basic story. It managed to convey the main plot at the very least without contradicting itself much, and introduce some characters that you can kind of get attached to. Yeah. The whole point of the movie, though, is well, frankly, just for entertainment. It's geared toward teenagers. That much is definitely obvious. So if you're expecting something deep and thought provoking, yeah. But at least while it is on their level, it's not insulting to their state of mind. It doesn't, somehow treat them like they're incapable of processing things. It doesn't throw words pulled straight out of a thesaurus at them in order to make these characters feel smarter than them when they're actually incredibly stupid. Um, it honestly, to be perfectly blunt, it definitely went with some of the cheesy romantic side story, which can be fun every once in a while. The teen girls would definitely love it, and still managed to throw in enough action in there to keep the guys definitely entertained too. So to be perfectly blunt, in terms of format and everything, this is what Twilight should have been. If it really wanted to appeal to the demographic it was reaching out to. And well, intelligence-wise, of course, then you also have the pedophilia and the bestiality and the necrophilia. But we won't get into that. Yeah, but yeah, it really, it also wasn't as bad as you'd think. I'll leave it at that. Might be worth red boxing. Uh, renting something like that, watch it once. And it really wasn't that bad. Or at least not as bad as I thought it was going to be. See, when I rented it, I was renting it with the expectation that I was going to rip it apart, and I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't really praise it either, but. Okay, and the final honorable mention, Priest. Why? Just because of the vampires. I'm sorry, I just love seeing any and all depictions of vampires. They really, really take out the Twilight fangirls. And seeing as this is a depiction of vampire that is once again much closer to the original vampire legend than shirtless, sparkly boys, I'm happy. Now, dishonorable mentions. I got two. I got two this year. Number one is Cars 2. And I know that's going to get some people asking why. I thought it was good, made it was fun. Yeah, sure, it was. Except it's a kids' movie. It's geared toward kids. And it goes political. The producer even openly admitted it. We wanted to go political with this. Openly admitted that. As if they were proud of that. No kid wants to see politics in a movie. Granted, they're too young to really understand it, but the fact that they're even trying to shove it at them is frankly insulting. And as for the adults, that just makes it even harder to sit through. I mean, the first car is completely apolitical, completely fun, completely didn't. God, it's another case of a sequel taking a giant step backwards. Oh God, that is just frustrating to sit through. Yeah. See, when I watch a movie like that, I mean, it's a fantasy film with talking cars that race for the. I don't want politics in that. Aside from the only kind of politics I can handle in a movie like that is like some sort of weird, little sideswipe, not a main story plot or something. I mean, Kai. Ugh. Okay. Now, the other dishonorable mention is Thor. Thor to me was the biggest disappointment of the year. I went in there expecting a good movie. Kenneth Branagh is a good director. I've seen a lot of his work. Heck, I've even seen his Shakespearean work, his film version of Henry V. I loved that. I really did. Which he also acted in, and he did great there. Funny as heck at times. Yes, you'd never think that someone speaking Shakespearean could actually pull off the whole humor thing, but he did it very well. They didn't adapt it or anything. It was all Shakespearean English and everything. Um, and I was disappointed. Very much changed from the backstory and origins of Thor that I remember. Um, Loki is, oh my God, Loki went from being the trickster god who's trying to slay Odin and take the throne to, I just want my daddy's approval. Sneaks an army of the Frost Giants, who by the way he finds out are his real people, sneaks an army of the Frost Giants, or an assassination squad at the very least, you know, out of their realm into frickin' Asgard, has them storm the castle. They go to kill Odin, and what's he do? He kills them. So he risks all that, risks bringing them in there, risks getting caught doing it, just so that he can then turn around and kill them and say, "Look, Dad, I saved you. Do you love me now?" I mean, really. No. Uh, hang on, hang on, hang on, and it's gone. Okay. Now, honestly, like I said, Kenneth Branagh he was a good director. Um, I honestly don't know whether or not these screw ups were a result of him, or the writers, or the producers saying no, that we want this. I don't know. They definitely tried to make this the more dramatic, emotional, artsy one, and it kind of failed in that regard. I mean, Thor should have been a lot easier to work with than a lot of superhero movies, and they kind of dropped the ball there. Um, to me, it really was just the biggest disappointment of the year. I went there expecting something great, and got something mediocre at best. It's not a horrible movie. It's just based on what it should have been. It's not good. Definitely the worst of the Avengers series, that's for sure. That being said, there's your list for this year. Now, I had said before that I was possibly going to talk about what I'm expecting or excited for next year. I am going to do that, but I will put that video up at a later date because this one's running long. So there's your top 5 movies of the year, and I will see you next year, literally. Happy New Year, people. Here's hoping that the new year doesn't suck as much as this one did, huh?